All right, guys, so for today's math lesson, we are completing topic 11.3, counting by tens to 100. We have been practicing this quite a bit in the classroom, so I'm pretty confident that the majority of students should be able to do this pretty easily. So again, the only vocabulary term that was new for this unit was the term decade numbers. So that's those numbers when we count by 10, it's those numbers that we say here. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 are those decade numbers. And so you might want to have kiddos practice using that vocabulary term. So here students are going to be coloring all of the boxes of the numbers that have a 0 in the ones place as you count them aloud. If you still have not had a conversation with your kiddo about ones place and tens place, now would be a great time to do that. So we have covered this in class. Typically I'll put the number into two columns like this, the tens place and the ones place. So in the number 10, we write it like this. And so the 1 goes in the tens place, the 0 goes in the ones place. And when students should be recognizing the pattern that when you put these two numbers together, they should make the number 10. So we've been practicing that for quite a while in class. This should the place value should always match the actual number. So you want kiddos to be recognizing their tens place now. The first digit in a two-digit number is the tens place. So you want to have that conversation with your kiddo, make sure they're able to point those out. So in this column, the tens place has, all these numbers have a 1 in the tens place. Okay, in this column, all these numbers have a 2 in the tens place. So in this column, they all have a 3. So for these decade numbers today, they need to be able to recognize that these numbers right here, the 0 is in the ones place. So they should be circling this whole column, coloring that whole column in. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and play our interactive video for today as well. Again, you can access this on the math website. Again, it's called Visual Learning. So I'm going to go ahead and start this for us.
This is part of a 100 chart. It starts at 1. What number does it end at? It ends at 60. What numbers are colored?
Okay, so here we want kiddos to recognize these numbers. They want to be able to read them out loud.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. What do you notice about the ones place of the colored numbers? It is always 0. What do you notice about the tens place of the colored numbers? It goes up by 1 each time. What number are you counting by when you count the colored numbers? You are counting by tens. Now look at the groups of cubes. What do you notice about these numbers?
So the one thing that you're going to want to say here is that they had a cube for each number here in the 100 chart, and then they took those cubes and they put them into rows here. So it's just a visual representation of this 100 chart here. And there's still, because there's 10 in this row, there's going to be 10 cubes here. Hopefully your kiddo doesn't have to count those because we want them to know that if there was 10 here, there's still 10 here. They match. If they do have to count, that's okay. Again, developmentally, it just means they're in a different place, but you want them to be able to count by 10 then after that.
They are the same as the colored numbers in the chart. How many cubes are there in each group? There are 10 cubes in each group. So every time you count a group, how many more cubes are you counting on?
Okay, and then if you do this online for you with your kiddo, you can do the try it. It's going to have them just match the numbers to the cubes.
Each time you add a group, you count on by 10 cubes. Decade means a group of 10, so each of these numbers can be called a decade number. What is the decade number just before 30? 20 is the decade number just before 30. What is the decade number just after 50? 60 is the decade number just after 50. What is the decade number just before 60? 50. Now you know how to count by tens.
Okay, so again, they need to know those terms before and after as well. That's going to be an important part of understanding how to use a 100 chart. All right, so I'm going to go back into the lesson now, and we're going to go to the next page. Remember, on page 2, those green boxes are just a continuation of that video that we just watched. You do not have to watch the video. It's totally optional, but if it's here on the YouTube video, it should make it a little bit easier for you to get it to your kiddo. Okay, so you're going to need a pencil for this, and kiddos are going to draw a circle around the decade number that comes before 40, but after 20. So here in this situation, I would just give them one clue at a time and see if they can figure that out. And if you need to give them that second clue, that would work as well. Gives them a little bit more information. So here they're just tracing and circling 30, and then in this problem right here, they actually have that number missing from the chart. So they need to be able to recognize that 70 is missing. They don't have to write it in there, but if you want them to, they can. That way they're practicing writing those tens, those decade numbers. Okay. For number 3, students are going to be drawing a circle around the missing numbers in the following pattern. So you're actually going to read this pattern out loud to them, 10, 20, 30. You're going to pause. You're going to ask them what comes next. They should draw a circle around 40, 50, again pause, ask them what comes next, draw a circle around 60. You're going to read 70, pause. They're going to circle 80, ask them what comes next, 90, and then you can finish off with 100. On problems 4 through 6, all they're doing is counting by tens here and then matching it to the number of whatever they counted. So for this problem, it would be 10, 20, 30. We need to know that you make a 30 with a 3 and a 0. So you want to really make sure that your kiddo's number recognition is accurate for what they're saying here, that it's a match. Same thing on number 5 and number 6. Okay, same thing here on number 7, except on 7 you're going to have the kiddos write their numbers, count their decade numbers by 10. So here it would be 10, 20, 30, so they need to be able to write a 1 and a 0, a 2 and a 0, a 3 and a 0, all the way down. And they're going to circle, I believe it says to circle the number that tells how many there are all together. So they should be circling 60 on this one. Okay, same thing on this one. They're going to count them all by tens, circle the matching number, and then down here they're going to write their numbers to 100 starting at 10. So you're going to say, can you count by tens, and write those numbers for me. Remember, reversals are very normal in kindergarten, so you might see kiddos write their 2 or their 5 backwards. That's okay. I always just tell them, don't let those numbers trick you. Let's try to find the way that's supposed to look, so I'll have them recognize it somewhere. Typically, we have a number chart in class, so they can see that. And in this example, you do have a 100 chart to reference. So hopefully that helps. Again, the next pages are just your more practice pages. You're welcome to have your kiddo do those. And that's it for lesson 11.3. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I am on Dojo. Thanks.